Hey, hi everyone, I'm Ren Jones. I'm a solution architect in Sydney, and I'm going to be talking to you today about the MB-220, which is the marketing application certification. And we all know that business applications are not so interesting, so this time with dinosaurs. Okay. All right, so the marketing application. I've got to admit, I stole this template from Microsoft. I really like it. All right. And why dinosaurs? Well, I mean, this is business applications. It's at least a little bit more interesting. Okay, cool. So when we start off, let's just talk about some general preparation when we're doing certifications. So first thing, absolutely read the skills measure document. So on the learning portal, when you go to the MB-220 page, you can download it. It is updated frequently. So this is the first thing you have to do. All right. And then general stuff. So the learning paths, absolutely do them, but they're a guide, not a textbook, yeah? So they're there to kind of point you in the right direction of learning. They're not going to tell you absolutely everything you need to know. You 100% need to be in the marketing application and playing around in order to actually work out what you're going to be doing, all right? And then next up, when you're pointed to the documentation within the learning paths, make sure that you read it. So it's there for a reason. And often the cadence of the questions that you're asked within the exams are a lot closer to what you'll read in the standard documentation than in the learning paths, right? The learning paths are a lot more friendly. All right, so give yourself time to study. These exams are really difficult. Don't cram in a couple of nights. Give yourself a couple of weeks. And then lastly, though, everybody crams the night before. That's a thing. Okay, so the MB-220 exam page on the learning portal is where we always start out. Okay, so what you need to do is scroll down here, keep going, skills measured. So this will give you a general overview of the kind of percentage of questions that you're looking at, but you really need to actually download the document. So this is a PDF, and oh, surprise, here's where we actually need to read. Yep, so when the exam gets updated, which it does regularly, you need to know about that. And Microsoft are going to tell you the difference between what was on the old exam and what's in the newest version. And you need to be aware of the date as well, in terms of when you've booked to sit it. So if we scroll down a minute, here's all the old ones. And then if we go to the new bit, here's what's changed, okay? So the new Teams webinar stuff, they're going to ask you about this now. So they're going to ask you about configuring the event website, and they're going to ask you about the new out-of-the-box entities that manage sponsors, vendors, and logistics. So this is why we always check the skills measured document before we start studying. All right, so me, yeah, I'm Ren Jones, as I say. The dinosaurs are kind of my thing. All right, so I've been doing Dynamics since version 4. That's about 13 years at this point. And I do kind of certifications as disgustingly as kind of a hobby, really. And I'm a trainer as well. All right, and you guys can connect with me on LinkedIn and tweet at me if you like. All right, so when we're studying for the marketing application specifically, the first things you want to be doing is make sure that you know model-driven apps in general. Yep, so the MB-220 and the rest of the first-party app certifications are designed to be built on top of your standard Dynamics knowledge. So you need to know all your standard model-driven apps customizations. You need to know how to use Power Automate. You also need to know some sales functionality as well, specifically around leads and lead qualification. So the marketing exam expects that you know all of this. And then you've got to know your Power Apps portals. All right. So once you've kind of got your basics down and you're fine with that, then you want to be getting a marketing application trial for yourselves to go in and play with. You want to be following along with it in the learning paths. And then if this is your first party app certification, I'd probably recommend you consider sales first because it's a bit easier. So just to get kind of an idea of the kind of questions that you'll come across and how they're asked. And if you're doing this for the certification, bearing in mind that there are two parts to getting that functional consultant certification from the marketing application. You've got to do this exam, but you've also got to do PL200 as well. Okay, so PL200, probably do this one first. So PL200 is the closest thing that they have now to the old certification, like config exam. So it replaced MB-200 and that replaced the standard config ones. So that's where you kind of flex your standard model-driven app knowledge. So, how to add a field and an entity and a business rule and all this kind of stuff. So it gives you not only that now, but a general overview of everything that's in the Power Platform. So how to write your flows, how to add a Canvas app, Power Virtual Agents, all that kind of stuff. And all of the first-party application exams now touch on general Power Platform stuff. So if you haven't done this one first, I'd recommend studying for this one and then going on to marketing. Okay. With that in mind, let's talk about actually prepping for the marketing application specifically. So first off, in this case, the learning paths on the learning portal do match with what you need to do for the marketing application really well. That is not the case for all of the exams, so this one's pretty lucky. So in general, just remember you've got to follow along with the examples that they give you within the learning paths, and also you're going to get asked about the new stuff. Yeah, that's not just marketing specifically, that's pretty much every exam, but because marketing's the newest first-party app, that's the one that they're going to want to, go, oh, cool, what's new in here? And you can almost be sure you're going to get questions about that. So when you're learning as well, really good thing to do, find some experts and go and see what they have to say about the marketing app specifically. This is especially important if you haven't actually used it in anger, either kind of in a business or in a specific project. So two people that I like to follow that talk a lot about marketing is Amy Holden and Lisa Crosby. So you can check those guys out on Twitter. Now, in general, for marketing, the main topics that you're going to want to focus in on, like laser focus, marketing insights, customer journeys, customer voice, events, and marketing forms. Now, clearly, there's more than that in the marketing app itself, but if you've got those 5 down, you know what you're going to be asked about. Okay. Marketing, the overview. All right, let's go jump into dynamics and have a look at how the marketing app looks. Okay, so in the marketing application, so clearly this is a big beast, and we need to know how all of it works, of course, but in order to pass the exam, there are some bits that are going to be more important than others, right? So if we look down the general sitemap, what have we got here? Okay, our standard accounts and contacts, yeah, they're everywhere. We don't really need to know that much about them. Segments and subscription lists. So segments specifically are a different thing within marketing. So we need to know about how those work. Customer journeys, marketing emails, social posts and campaigns. So top 3, again, they only exist in the marketing application itself. You're going to need to know how those work. So for instance, if we just bob to customer journeys and we have a quick look at one of these, actually get in here and play around with one. So clearly you're not going to be pinging out hundreds of thousands of marketing emails while you're playing with it, but actually go in and build yourself a journey. Yeah. So if you click on add an email, see what it does, go and have a look what you can build in there. This is the way you actually learn when you go through. Yeah. Okay. So customer journeys. And if we scroll a bit further down, leads and lead scoring models. So yeah, leads within sales. You need to know the basis of how leads work, the qualification, the standard out of the box fields you get. But scoring models come out of marketing insights. So you're going to need to know roughly how you set them up and how they work, and then how they interact with leads itself. Okay. So other big areas of the marketing application, clearly, if we look at the area, events. Now, a lot of event information in here that you're going to need to know about. So bearing in mind that a lot of this stuff has come in fairly recently and the marketing application exam has been updated to go with it. Yeah. So have a look at your kind of standard entities and what they do here, your speakers, your venue management, your logistics. But in terms of events itself, what we need to be aware of here is the new Teams streaming stuff, yeah? So if you stream an event, you can go through Teams. Now, it is still in preview, but these questions are in the exam. And then now what we need to be looking at is the automatic generation of the event URL, right? So when you set up an event and you say it's online, this just gets created for you out of the box. So this is within the standard fabric of the marketing portal. So I choose my picture, everything else is done for me, right? So any sessions that I've got, any speakers, these are just automatically added for me. So know how this works and also know how the registration page works, yeah? So when we add a marketing form for registration in there, this is thrown up, know how it works. Those are you're definitely going to get asked questions about these topics because Microsoft are so proud of it. All right, now we're back from the marketing application. Let's talk about actually passing the exam now, which is different to knowing how the application works. If you know how the application works, it's going to really help you pass the exam. However, passing the exam is a different thing. Okay, so first of all, think about how these exams work within Microsoft. Yeah, there's only a certain type of set of questions that you ever get asked in these certifications. So you've got, your general, pick one of these, your general pick two of these, your case studies. Yeah, so put these things in order, go into code and then choose specific things to make it work. So some of those types of questions really fit the marketing application itself and some of them don't. So you're not going to get presented with a line of code and being told to choose what, function name or what, variable fits in where, because we don't write code within the marketing app yet. And there's some things that the marketing app really does lend itself to. So case studies. So you're going to get a lot of the customer wants to do this. How would you best do this within the product? Yeah, think about that when you're revising. Okay, so best way to pass the exam, know what questions are going to come up and know the answer to the questions. Yeah, so if you were Microsoft, how would you judge whether someone knows what's in the marketing app and how it works? Try and think like the people that set the exam questions. And then one important thing to do, remember that the people that set these questions for the marketing application exam are usually the same people that set them for the sales exam, that set them for the field service exam. So think about how marketing as a first-party app is different from the other first-party apps, because those are the ones you're going to get questions on. So what's different about the marketing app in general? How it's licensed is different. Segmentation is only used in marketing, and the marketing portal itself is only used in marketing. So those special things are probably going to get asked about. All right, cool. So let's talk about how we judge what those questions are going to be. So the rest of this presentation is really going to be about how you can pick out specific questions that you're probably going to get asked and how you can study for those specifically. So 2 different ways we do that. So first of all, know what you're likely to get asked about. So know what question types fit the marketing app specifically, and look out for lists. Okay, so whenever you're revising and you see a statement that says things like, oh, we support these 3 file types, or these are the 4 things that come out of the box in, this choice, I beg your pardon. I keep calling them drop downs, but I can't do that anymore. So look out for lists. Marketing is really, really specifically one of those exams where different lists of stuff are really going to help you pick them out when you're learning. And then, like we said, what's special about marketing itself? There's legal ramifications for using the marketing app, so GDPR, all that kind of stuff. You need to know about that. You need to know what it can't do, specifically because a lot of customers will buy the marketing app assuming that it has a load of social media in there, that kind of stuff. So you as a functional consultant, it's part of your job to point out what it isn't as well as what it is. And then stuff that Microsoft are proud of, so new things, fun things, they're going to put those in there. And then licensing and quotas. As we said earlier, this is really different in marketing versus the other applications and versus the rest of the Power Platform as well. So going to get asked questions about that. Okay, cool. So putting these in order, yeah, whenever you see those, you know that there's going to be questions on them. And there are loads of things like that within marketing. So this is like a free question, essentially. So when you're studying, look for these specific things. So uninstalling and installing the marketing app, specific set of things that you need to do in a sequence. So stages when you're setting up an authenticated domain. So what things come out at you in what order, how we set up LinkedIn lead generation, creating a marketing page, and setting up double opt-ins. Yep, so there's loads of other things within marketing that we do in sequence. But when you're reading through the learning paths, think about those. All right. Odd one out. So as I mentioned, specific lists, again, it's a free question. Anytime that you see this specific 5 things or these specific 3 things, you're almost definitely going to get asked questions that are like, well, which one of these isn't in that list? So make sure you hold these in your mind. So things like image file types in the asset library, things like what comes in the default content settings, and then where do we get marketing calendars? Yep, so things like these are the ones available on the entity level, these are available on the form level. Again, these are examples of ones that I pulled out of my notes that I took from reading the learning paths, but these are the kind of things that really lend themselves. Okay, legal stuff. So as we said, marketing is different to the rest of the third-party apps. Microsoft are scared that people do not understand the legal ramifications of communicating with the marketing app. So they need to ensure that you, someone that's going to train people to use the marketing app and someone that's going to use it in anger in projects, understands it yourself. So some of the legal stuff that you need to be aware of. So emails require a physical address. What double opt-in settings do? So they're required by GDPR, which is only for Europe, but is going to be used widely in the world. So privacy banners, you can add on marketing pages. The consent level field on contact for GDPR, that's an out-of-the-box field. It has specific stages that are in a specific order. So this is one of those Venn diagrams of almost definitely going to get asked something about this. It's legal compliance, but it's also a list of stuff. And then about the Trust Center and what it does. Okay. All right, so limits. So as we said before, in terms of, oops, sorry, went too far there. Go back. There we go. Okay, so in terms of limits and quotas, so the marketing application is licensed and billed differently to almost anything else in the Power Platform. Yep. So there's quotas that customers have to keep to. So first of all, how do they know where those quotas live? You're probably going to get asked questions about how we check that. You're probably going to get asked questions about how you buy them, and you're probably going to get asked questions about what the standard limits are, right? So be thinking about marketing contacts, be thinking about litmus email previews, be thinking about marketing emails themselves in terms of how many that you can send out, right? And secondly, everybody knows that marketing contacts don't really make much sense. So that's why you're going to get asked about it, because customers are going to ask you. Yeah. So you're going to get asked, what's the definition of a marketing contact? How is it different to a normal contact? How do I determine if something's going to get billed? Make sure you understand those concepts. All right, new and fun stuff. Okay, so this is the stuff that Microsoft love, and they're definitely going to ask you about it because they're proud. Okay, so firstly, webinars. So this is a relatively new thing that you can stream on Teams. However, the content of the exam gets updated a lot because they like to ask you questions about stuff they're proud of. So know about webinars. So know about the automatic creation of the web page that we saw in the demonstration earlier. Know about the event elements in marketing emails, that we can now put those in there. Know about registration QR codes. Know about all the new standard entities to record things like sponsors and vendors and venues. They're almost certainly going to ask you a couple of questions about that. And next up, marketing insights. So again, one of the new things, know that it now feeds into segmentation. So it's going to give you out of the box segments, the dynamic segments that are created with AI. Know about the dynamic email content you can do. Understand how this interacts with lead scoring. So even though it is marketing insights, it feeds into that sales and standard lead qualification stuff. Know about the out of the box synchronous, the out of the box entities that sync. So accounts, contacts, and events, and know that you have to sync other ones manually if you want to use them. So things like event registrations, for example, you have to set that up. And then know that you can't unsync once you've synced things. All right, okay, so also know about the stuff that it doesn't really do, or it doesn't do that well. Now, in terms of, are there going to be questions about this? Probably. So if you were going to judge whether somebody knew how the marketing application worked, you'd probably want them to know the bits that it's not very good at as well. Yep. So in terms of social media, another one of these Venn diagrams of a list of things, it does LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. So know those are there. Where's everything else? So it's probably not going to be which one's the odd one out, because they don't really like to put too fine a point on the fact that it's not really a social media application, but know that it isn't. So understand what it does in terms of LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. So understand like the LinkedIn lead generation and what that can do in terms of feeding the sales pipeline. Know about the scheduled posts, know about posting from Dynamics, but make sure you're aware of what it can't do as well. And similarly with customer voice. So what customer voice does in terms of marketing has really come on quite a lot, but it's still not as there as people might think it is. So you might get asked a question like, can a customer voice survey be a trigger in a customer journey? It can't. However, it can send out customer voice surveys. Yep. So understand the distinction between what, you can use with customer voice in terms of marketing and what you can't. And then secondly, things like event passes. There are some things within, the event functionality with webinars that you would think would be the case in terms of both the offline events and webinars as well, like passes. No, you can only do the passes for offline events. So have a think about those. All right, so that's it. Thanks very much. So whistle-stop tour of marketing and what we do for revising for it. Everyone LinkedIn me if you're interested, and thanks very much. All right.